First up on our interview list are the famous Danons. From Danon and the Farvardins. Okay, first question. What was your favorite course or teacher?
The favorite one was my electrical engineering teacher, because we never understood anything that he said. So we all had to take, notes afterwards. We all got together. And we just could not understand the fellow. But we liked him so much. He was very brilliant. And after that was Matt, our drafting. Mechanical black Matt. My God, scary person. In that, I was a couple of times 1 or 2 minutes late, and I thought I was going to be killed. This guy was frightening, but he was an incredible teacher, because to this day, I'm still probably just a great draftsman, and because of him. So it was great.
Okay, so what was your fondest memory at Stevens?
The fondest memory, and I'm looking at one of the culprits in front of me, John Dalton and his brother. I got everybody out of our dorm because it was snowing like crazy. So we started building this huge, I thought it was going to be a sculpture, but it turned out to be just a large ball, which kept on getting bigger and bigger because everybody then joined us. And there were, I forgot how many of us rolling this thing. It got so big that I got on top to direct the operation. And this thing just kept on rolling, and we kept on pushing. And as it got to the hill, I thought it was going to go down the hill. And we thought it was going to destroy a couple of houses. This thing was a monster. And then fortunately started rolling down, and we all ran away. And then it hit a curb. Unfortunately, it broke in two. The snow was there probably for another month and a half. It was that big.
Wow.
So that was a great experience.
So from your experience at Stevens, what did they do for you to help you be successful in later years?
The engineering thinking, the engineering mind. I still have it. I can't get rid of it. I would like to.
No, you don't want to get like it. You don't want to get Your wife might not like it. My wife may not like it, but it's fine. I like it.
But, everything we do in life is still like an engineer. You try to find out the shortest way to walk between 2 points, the shortest way to cut traffic. You're continually, that's one of the engineering heads.
But sometimes intuition works better than engineering.
Yeah, my wife should have been the engineer, actually.
But they didn't let women in when I was going to college, so.
Also, they didn't let her play with model trains, which is terrible.
No, that is terrible.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
But we've got almost 20% women today, by the way.
Yes, the younger people sometimes were on campus, and we talked to them, and they can't believe that there were never women at Stevens. Well, we could have been on the moon 20 years earlier.
Yeah,
there we go.
Absolutely. But we got women. Okay. What was your favorite teacher or course?
I guess I remember thermodynamics with Luigi Pollara and the whole class being in there, and it was from the womb to the tomb. It's the way he started off, that he was going to give us the best information on thermodynamics.
That was one of the most difficult courses. I didn't understand anything in that course, by the way. How I ever got through it is just pure luck.
But you did.
I guessed a lot. Okay, so what is your fondest memory of Stevens, Tom?
I think it's between fraternity parties and the senior trip, and the senior trip where we went on the train and went to various Buffalo and Pittsburgh and Allentown, Pennsylvania. That was...
And Wheeling? I think.
Weirton, West Virginia for
right.
Weirton Steel.
That's right.
They were making tin plate there.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you think Stevens helped you in your career?
It gave me a tremendous background on all aspects between engineering and management and cost accounting and that in general.
So it gave you a good balanced
Good
curriculum.
background.
You want to throw in a zinger for him?
Well, what I like about Stevens, coming to all these reunions, it is a breathtaking campus. And being here on a day like today, as we've had for many reunions, is just awe-inspiring.
And we're happy to have Dave Carmichael here. Dave, what was your favorite teacher and or course?
Favorite teacher? I liked Rolf Weil. He was a metallurgy teacher. He was a very fine person, Jewish fellow. Spoke with a Austrian Jewish German accent. A very fine person.
What was your most favorite event at Stevens when you look back?
Graduation.
After 4 years getting out.
That's right. Getting a job, being self-sustaining for a change.
And what would you credit Stevens for helping you in your career? What were the things that you got out of Stevens?
Well, they gave me a very broad background, which was good because I went into the field of acoustics. And I needed, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, physics, and all those good things that kind of fit in with the career that I picked. So
And you're coming from Georgia, right?
I live in Georgia now. But anyway, I think it was about time I showed up for one of the anniversaries.
Well, we got one more that we're going to hold on to, and that's our 60th.
Well, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, aren't we? 65th, 70th.
From your lips, God's words. Thank you very much. Our current president of the class and organizer of this great event. So we owe him a big thank you for that.
Oh, and Don was a big help, so
Yeah.
it's a team event.
So John, what was your favorite teacher and or course?
Actually, there were a couple. In terms of the engineering curriculum, it was Luigi Pallara and thermodynamics. I mean, that first semester junior year, where he lectured the entire class 3 or 4 times a week, and that was just an amazing performance. But the other one is really Doc Humphreys in the humanities. I had several courses with Humphreys, and with the humanities courses were just a wonderful foundation for what we did after Stevens.
What's your fondest memory of Stevens?
I think she's got one.
Oh, you got one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
What year was it?
I was a junior.
Okay. He gave me his fraternity pin. He pinned me on Castle Point.
Oh, wow.
Right by the cannon.
Right, and you have your memory.
Right.
We'll hear that later.
Yes. And, that was memorable. Plus, the Delt House with their
Toga
parties.
They was sort of number 2 Animal House. I think PSK was number 1. They were probably number 2. But they were close. They were really
It was a horse race.
Yes. Okay. What do you think that Stevens gave you to make you successful in your career?
Well, it was you had to develop a phenomenal work ethic to get through here in 4 years. And probably the most lasting piece from my Stevens education wasn't the classwork, but putting the student to bed every week for 4 years with those deadlines and learning to be able to communicate clearly when you're up against a tight deadline and you've got this much space to fill to complete and it's 1 o'clock on Wednesday morning. That whole experience was just great preparation for subsequent career.
Okay, you get the last. Pleasure to have Joe Kaminski, who is our class officer and has been very generous in establishing the Kaminski scholarships, which has really put the 60 along with its own scholarship on the map. So a couple of questions. What was the best teacher and or course that you had at Stevens, Joe?
Well, I'm going to pass on the course, but probably the best teacher we had, and I never appreciated at the time, was Winston Bosdick. And Winston came to Stevens just a year or two before we were there. And he's a national treasure in terms of physicist. And so you can imagine this unbelievable physicist coming in and trying to talk to freshman Stevens engineering students. And it had to be the most frustrating experience for him. But he had the biggest brain that I've ever seen or experienced since then. And I still remember him, and still remember how pleasant he was trying to explain physics to us, and it was all over our heads.
And he was a very excitable person. He was a natural food nut. He grew beans that went straight up.
In that era.
Yes, and he was a naturalist. And he was a very interesting guy. Rosemarie worked for him. That was Rosemary's
really?
boss. Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
I can remember one time he came in and he had some liquid nitrogen, which was kind of interesting because I ended up working for a company that made nitrogen. And he froze a hot dog, and he was sliding this hot dog across the desk to try to get down to our level to comprehend the vapor flow under the hot dog. And it was, we were, again, he tried everything, but I think we failed the test for him, but he was a remarkable individual.
What was the fondest memory you had at Stevens, Joe?
The fondest memory, that's tough. Certainly the fondest memory is meeting and marrying Judy.
Whoa!
You get a rebuttal on that, by the way.
You can't top that, really. Yeah. So that really is certainly the fondest memory.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When did you meet him in Stevens?
I dated his roommate first.
Ah. I mean, were you a sophomore, a junior? Or?
No, we were actually...
Yeah, not freshmen,
No,
certainly
seniors.
not.
Actually, it was the
Junior, senior.
junior-senior year. And
We went
and
to prom at the castle, all gussied up.
Yeah.
That was a nice...
Yeah, and in fact, we decided to go steady in the start of the school year of our senior year at the castle. And I took her to a senior event at the castle, preschool type event.
Castle has great memories for a lot of us.
I know.
Lastly, what do you think that Stevens did for you or helped you in your career? I mean, what did you get out of Stevens?
Well, I got
A
more.
job.
That's right, which was kind of critical at that time in 1960.
A number of people said graduation.
No, and people
But-
getting drafted. There was
Yeah.
Vietnam, and there was a lot going on.
But I was a commuter to a high school in New York City, and I really never had much of a social life beyond an academic life. And at Stevens, being a small school and living on campus, I integrated into the school not only from an academic standpoint, but from a social standpoint. And in developing my personality, that certainly was invaluable to me as I moved later in life.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
You want to say anything, Judy?
Thank
Get the
you.
last
No,
word?
I went to St. Mary's Hospital School of Nursing on 4th and Willow. That's how we met. Here.
We're going to interview here my wife, Rosemarie. And why Rosemarie? Well, because Rosemarie was an employee of Stevens when I met her.
That's right.
And tell us, Rosemarie, what you thought of me when you first met me.
Oh, my goodness. I thought he worked at Stevens. I had no idea he was a student because wherever I went, I saw him. It was in the bookstore, it was in the library. He was helping the buildings and grounds people. So I was very surprised when I found out in about 2 or 3 weeks later that he was a BOMC, big man on campus. So that all worked out very well for us.
It did work out very well for us.
We've been married 55 years.
55 years.
You don't have to repeat.
55 years. I'm getting weak.
And Stevens has played a big part in our life.
And we all hope
and
when you watch this that we'll be all here for our
60th.
60th, which is another
I have
5
one.
years.
I would like to say one more thing.
Right.
We have 2 sons. Both of them are graduates of Stevens. Our one son got his master's degree at Stevens. The other one got his PhD at Stevens. They went somewhere else for undergraduate school, but so they are part of the Stevens family. Thank you.
I handed both of my sons their degrees at graduation, and if I'd been smart, I would have quit right then and there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adieu. And we're thrilled to have Richard Reeves, class of 60.
Class of 60, right.
Right.
Blew it.
Blew it. Could have been worse.
Right.
A few questions.
Okay.
What was your favorite teacher and/or course?
Dick Humphreys in Humanities, who taught, what I most remember is we covered the Middle Ages in an hour. But it changed my outlook on life because at the end, Professor Humphrey said, you know, after all these horrible stories about how people were treated, and he said, and it was a time when spring came and people fell in love and they didn't want to die. And I always, that has always stuck with me about attitude toward life. That no matter what life people are living, they want to make it better.
What is your fondest memory while you were at Stevens?
Graduating.
If Richard wasn't the anchor of the class,
Right.
he was pretty close to it.
Right, right. It was a miracle that I was there. And also, by then I was married, and
Carol.
my baby daughter, was there too, so that was nice.
There
But
weren't
getting
too
the
many-
diploma was the nicest.
That's good. Okay, what did you credit Stevens with helping you in your career?
Oh, I learned how to think. I have never worked as hard as I did here, and I learned something that whatever I did made a difference, and that was in engineer talk, isolating the variable. I learned how to look at complex things and figure out what was really the moving moment at the center after you cut through everything. I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have this education.
Now, you've written a number of very successful books, and one of the hallmarks of all the books you've written has terrific footnotes, author's appendices, and everything else like that. So they seem to be extraordinarily well-organized efforts. Did engineering help with that?
Well, it helped with that, but so did prayer. I do think that we know how to organize, we engineers know how to organize things better, but it's a secret of life and you can never quite master it, I don't think.
So you have an opportunity as a freebie to talk to the class. It's a jump ball.
Right, it's a jump ball. Hello, classmates. Thank God we graduated together. Thank God we were at a place where we would never work as hard again, and we learned to what they now call critical thinking. It was like basic training. It was a rough road, but when you got out, you were a better man.
Thank you very much, Dick.
Welcome to the Hoboken Historical Museum on a very historical day for New Jersey. I'm not sure what we can do to trump American Pharaoh as Triple Crown winner, but we'll try in our own way to do so. I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'd especially like to thank my fellow class officers, Joe Kaminski, Don Marino, and Tom Muldowney, for all the work that they've put into trying to make 55 special. It's been a long time since we graduated, and we've put a lot of effort into communicating with our classmates and putting together what I think is one of the more unique reunion projects that any class has undertaken. We have a few of our classmates here today. I did hear from a number who were unable to attend, and I will read you a message from one of them in particular. Folks like Doc Ardrey, Bernie Blum, Joe Cremona, Ken Mather, Marty Fernandi, Don Forsland, Ron Furtek, Joe Marino, Bob Peterson, Larry Southwick, George Washburn, and a couple of others did want to attend, but for various family events, 4 or 5 of them are actually out of the country doing what retirees do, traveling, seeing the world. So God bless them. But they did send their comments and asked to be remembered to you. I think one thing that's stood out to me over the years about the class of 1960 is that we have never shied from going where no class ever went before, in so many ways. In 1980, for our 20th reunion, we decided to memorialize our then deceased classmates by establishing an endowed scholarship fund. We were the first class to ever venture there. And thanks to a great leadership gift from Joe Merino, we established the Class of 1960 Scholarship Fund. And after the film, we'll update you on how well that has gone. The Stevens Award Gala is 3 years old. And to date, 3 awardees are classmates. Last year, Frank Fernandez, and this year, Joe Kaminski and Dick Reeves. And finally, the Stevens Alumni Award has been awarded to 3 members of the class of 1960, to Don Merino and my late twin brother Ed more than 20 years ago, and 2 years ago, yours truly received it. I've always been a slow starter.
You're doing great.
Thanks. But in community, I've gotten emails from several classmates, but there's one in particular from Frank Fernandez that I would like to read partially to you, because he talks both about what we're here today for the Authors Showcase and about his memories of Stevens. Frank and Carmen live in San Diego, California. Frank is former head of DARPA, among other things. They invented the internet, not Al Gore. But Frank wrote, he's very sorry he couldn't get here, but to please extend his best regards to his fellow classmates and say that I hope they're still remembering and enjoying life as members of the silent generation. Well, as you'll see from the film, we weren't always silent. I especially would like to congratulate Dick Reeves on his award and on his new book, Infamy. I have read it, and it is really a good piece of reporting. I hope that it can show many Americans how we must guard against letting ethnic and religious differences cloud our good judgment. As he says in his preface, the story is especially troubling because of the way that many in the U.S. feel about Hispanics and Muslims. I hope that history does not repeat itself. Then he talks about his Stevens memories. He says, my favorite professor was Dr. Robert Page in the fluid mechanics lab, who taught me fluid mechanics and how to do experiments on ablating bodies. I'm not sure I understand what that is. And who went on to become dean of the engineering school at Rutgers and helped build Rutgers into a powerhouse. He was an excellent teacher and had the patience to keep me under control. And anybody who remembers Fernando will understand that. He said, another member of the faculty whom I really admired was Coach Buzz Seymour. He taught me how to play lacrosse and squash, where I had some of the most rewarding times during my years at Stevens. He said, my roommates at the dorms, Bernie Blum and Alan Brufsky, provided me with many fond memories, which I remember to this day. And I harken back to Dick's comments about an hour ago about Dave Vazzetti and his classmates. In hindsight, I think that beyond fluid mechanics, I learned from Dr. Page the Stevens Honor System and the humanities courses. Those were the most important things that stayed with me in my professional life. He's very pleased at what Stevens has accomplished over the last few years and calls it a class act. Thank you, Frank. I think the Stevens education, as you heard from Dick at the EAS reception, and you'll hear from me, prepared all of us very well for all of the varying careers that we followed in life. Dick's comments about his fellow faculty in the classes at the University of Southern California just rang very true with me also. So this year, we decided to try something different. Being educated as engineers are kind of like Olympic athletes. It's Citius, Altius, Fortius, faster, higher, stronger. And we rarely stop to reflect on how we got here. So this year we decided to take a time out and reflect on how we got here. We decided to tackle a project to document the amazing history of the Stevens family and the story of their family home and our Castle Stevens. Thanks to a lot of help from a lot of folks, we've done it. Those memories are now documented and there for future generations to enjoy. So if you would, please put your cell phones, smartphones on silent. We're going to start back in 1850 before all of this stuff happened. So join me in watching Tales from Castle Stevens.
Reflected on life at the castle as a child.
After my father died in 1907, we lived here. In the morning,
Howard Hayden, class of 48, entered Stevens in September 1940. The original university trustees determined that Stevens should offer a single, rigorous engineering curriculum.
I mean, we started September and that following December was Pearl Harbor.
You have to continue because I didn't get a particularly favorable response.
So I said I had to think about it.
We were going to do our best Siskel and Ebert impersonation and answer questions, but it's time's getting tight for the dinner. So I'd like to ask Christopher Robinson, our superb director and editor, who really showed me how to put words and pictures together, to join us up here. You've all seen the first film. It's historic. It's compelling. When we finished that, with some of the stuff we pulled off there, I christened Christopher the head wizard at Hogwarts. We did the second film, which is a little bit different. It's a love story, not a history. We had a whole set of different challenges, but Chris was relentless in his pursuit of perfection. So he's kind of like Alexis. But the officers of the class of 1960 are so thrilled with the work that Christopher has done that we've elected him as an honorary member of our class. And the certificate reads as follows. Christopher Robinson has successfully completed the class of 1960's 55th reunion project as director of Stevens & Sons, America's First Family of Engineers, and Tales from Castle Stevens. He is hereby elected an honorary member of the class of 1960 with all rights pertaining thereto. So welcome to the Dinosaur Club.
Thank you.
And Dick, we also have an autographed copy of Dick's book that he is presenting to Christopher.
Oh. Amazing. Thank you.
Great. Hoveida, would you join us and accept this as our gift to Stevens?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. May I say a few
Sure.
words? Thank you very much. I must say I'm totally speechless because when we joined Stevens about 4 years ago, almost exactly 4 years ago, July 1, we were very much welcome in this community. So from the students to faculty to alumni, it just has been a great, great ride. The first few months, I started going to the library on a regular basis and discovering all these amazing things in the library, and just couldn't believe my eyes as to what I was seeing there. So fast forward a couple of months, and we started creating a committee that would look into the restoration and preservation of these historic items. I was a bit worried that nobody was paying attention to them, and they were really precious for us to keep as part of the history of this university. And then one night at dinner, I started very passionately talking about all of these. And of course, in my mind, I had a lot of dreams, and I still do. And one of my dreams was to have a movie, a film made about the castle. I had seen the pictures of the castle, I had seen some items of the castle, and it always puzzled me as to why anybody in this world would ever remove that beautiful piece of architecture. So as we were talking about this, I discovered that in fact John is the one who was very much opposing this as the editor of Stud at the time. And he shared with me the article that he had written. So we started connecting and talking about the idea of how about making a film? And we have no money. So at the beginning, I was even willing to settle for something that wouldn't be as professional, but something that we could keep the memories of the castle. We still have people who had seen the castle, memories, proposing to their wives, the dances, and all the fantastic things that you saw here. So the only thing that was in my mind at the time was, why don't we make a film and just go and interview people who had memories of the castle? But of course, John Dalton was a bit more ambitious, and he started saying that we need to do something a little bit more, and obviously that was very attractive. So basically, to cut the long story short, we ended up having what you just saw here, and I think for future generations of this university, what has been done is really, really precious. the fact that the memory of the castle and the stories are told by people who had seen the castle and didn't want it to be brought down, and all the fantastic pictures. Some of them I had not seen before, so I think they were really surprises. I thought I had seen everything about the castle, but you surprised me. So I really would like to thank John Dalton for his leadership in making this happen. The only issue is that now I think we need to start thinking about another film. You've done such a great job, and obviously Christopher and your narration has been so precious that I cannot even, I could not have imagined when we talked about this 3 years ago. So this is one dream that came true among some others where we restored the books and preserved the books. And I just maybe share with you quickly a few of the other dreams. One is to have a street in Hoboken named after the Stevens family, I hope before we leave this university. That's another dream, so I don't give up on that one. And perhaps bringing out the name of the Stevens a bit more in the city, whether it's at the ferry station, Path station. I think there are things that we can put in there for the residents of this city to know a little bit more about the family that really did a lot for this country, and in particular for this city. They really did a lot of amazing stuff, from the library to the university. And I was talking to somebody about an hour ago who told me when they take the train to go to Montclair, when they get to that station, it actually says the name of the university. And I said, why not here at Hoboken? Can we say home of Stevens family? So there are things that I think we can still do. So if you think you can help, it may get you engaged for 3 years, as with John, but I think it's a fantastic thing. So I thank you again from the bottom of my heart. And I certainly hope that we can do a lot more before we leave this fantastic place. Thanks again, John.
Yeah, we are also campaigning to get Colonel John Stevens in the New Jersey Hall of Fame. I did submit a nomination this past year, but he did not make the list of nominees. We'll strategize on how to get him on that list for next year. Because when you look at the enterprise category in the New Jersey Hall of Fame, he certainly belongs there. His record is, you could match him up to Edison, and I think it's a dead heat. I'd asked my fund captain, Tom Muldowney, to join me when we set out to do this the Stevens History Project. We also set out with an objective of adding at least $100,000 to our endowed scholarship fund. We doubled that. And the total that we raised this year, I think, is just phenomenal. We have a check to present to Nariman. Tom, would you like to tell him the amount?
Well,
this includes.
I'm waiting to see this check. I didn't sign this check, but.
It's ready to be endorsed. Ooh, look at that.
Wow. This is from.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, class of 1960. I'm really getting spoiled. Last night I got a big check. Tonight I got another big check. I don't know what's happening to me. You were giving me something tomorrow. Thank you again. You're just a wonderful guy.